Welcome to Miele Cooks. My name is Vicki Robb and I'm at the Miele Experience Center in Princeton, New Jersey. Today I'm going to share with you a recipe that I haven't made in years, but it is one of my favorites. It has the beautiful flavors of blueberries and lemon, and we're going to be making scones. I love the ingredients in this recipe because they're so simple, but one thing I won't compromise here is I want to be using fresh blueberries. If it is out of season and you have some good quality frozen ones, you can use frozen, but it's that time of year that we do have fresh blueberries, so that's what I'm going to be using today. So I'll just use some lemons, some dry ingredients, some basic baking dry ingredients, butter, and a cool ingredient that I don't usually bake with, which would be lemon yogurt. So give it a little extra lemon flavor. And then we're gonna top it off with a nice sugar glaze using some confectioner sugar. So let's get started. We're going to start with some all-purpose flour. This is 2 cups. I'm gonna put everything in a nice big bowl. It's so easy because we are not using a stand mixer or hand mixer. We're just gonna mix everything in this one large bowl. So I have some sugar, some baking powder and baking soda, and then some salt. I'm gonna give those a quick whisk, and then we're just gonna go ahead and add our wet ingredients. So here's the lemon yogurt that we talked about. This is a 6-ounce container. If you happen to only be able to find an 8-ounce container, you can go ahead and use that. We're just gonna use 6 today. We have some butter that I've melted, 4 tablespoons. I let it cool a little bit after it melted. And 1 egg. So I'm just gonna break the egg yolk a little bit with my spatula. Put this aside for now. And then I'm gonna whisk everything together before I add my blueberries. So super easy in this one bowl. Once it starts really getting wet, it'll start getting stuck in your spatula. So I'm gonna shake it out, and then I'm gonna switch, my whisk, then I'm gonna switch to my spatula. Okay, so now let's go ahead and mix everything in nicely. And I have more blueberries here than I need, but I'm just going to need 1 cup for this recipe. Really nice and thick batter because it is scones. It's not loose like a cake batter, but it's a little wetter than really a regular cookie batter. Okay, so let's add our cup of blueberries. Doesn't have to be exact. These are nice big blueberries. So let's get those in carefully. They are going to burst once you bake this, but that's part of the deliciousness of it, is those blueberries that burst on the outside of the scone. All right, so now I'm gonna make really nice big scones. I have a ice cream scooper here, and I'm just going to scoop them out onto my perforated Miele baking tray. And the reason that I like using the perforated tray is that the airflow underneath is really going to help get the bottom of the scones nice and brown too. So I've lined it with parchment paper. And I'm just trying to keep it nice and flat, and take my scooper, nice full scoop. Keep them at least about 2 to 3 inches apart if you can. And I'm just gonna fill up this tray, and then I'll meet you over at the oven where we're gonna bake them. So I have nice scones, 9 of them here on my tray. They're nice and big. I did flatten them out a little bit with my hand because now I wanna top it with a little bit of granulated sugar and lemon zest. Part of the reason I like to do that is that when we do our glaze, we're just going to be using the lemon juice. So I hate to waste all of this nice zest, because we know that's where all the flavor is in any citrus. So I'm just gonna give these a quick zest, and just 2 lemons should do. It probably will end up being about 1/2 tablespoon. So let's just get these done. That's 1. We'll do our second. It is kind of a sticky dough, so when you're flattening them out a little bit, you can even wet your fingers with a little bit of water if you want to press them down. Okay, we have our zest. And of course, we're gonna save these for the lemon juice that's going to make our glaze. So let's give this a nice little stir. I love a scone with a little bit of sugar on the outside. It's just so delicious. So I'm actually gonna use my fingers here, and I'm just gonna put a little bit on each scone. Super lemony and blueberry. All right, we have our oven preheated on convection bake to 400 degrees. Nice and hot. They have a short bake time of 15 minutes. So I'm gonna add a little bit more, I just can't help myself. Okay, so now we're gonna head over to the oven. We'll pop them in and I'll see you over there. We have our oven rack on shelf level 2, but since we're using convection, you can actually put it on any shelf in the oven. That's one of the benefits of using convection. So I'm gonna go ahead and slide out my nice flexi clip rack. Slide them in. Now the time is going to vary. It could be 15 to 20 minutes depending on how dark you'd like your scones. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start with 15 minutes, and we can always come back and add more time. So while those are baking, we can go ahead and start making that glaze, and we'll come back when these are done. To make the glaze is super simple. It's just a half a cup of confectioner's sugar. I am so lazy today, I'm not even gonna bother sifting it or anything. I'm gonna use the juice of 1 lemon. It should be about a tablespoon. Luckily there's like no seeds in here, but if there are, just make sure you squeeze the lemon facing up so you don't get the seeds, or you'd be like I usually am on most days, and I'll be fishing out the seeds. Okay, that should be nice there. 1 lemon. Just give it a stir. And we're going to want to make sure we let the scones cool completely before we put the glaze on, but it's nice to have it ready and just sitting on the side. So you could see the consistency of this glaze is kind of loose. That's actually what I want for this type of scone. I want it to be a thin layer on top of the scone, not like too heavy on there. So, all right, this is just what I want. So now we just have to wait for the scones to finish baking and cooling. The scones have been cooling for about 5 minutes now. You could see after I took them out of the oven, I put them on a cooling rack just to help them cool a little bit faster. They really came out nice and brown. Look at the blueberries, how they burst on the bottom. Like, I just love that when that happens. It's so natural sugar goodness. I love it. But let's add some other sugar, and we're gonna drizzle it with a little bit of glaze. So I'm just gonna take the glaze that we made earlier, and I'm just gonna do a quick drizzle back and forth on each one. Not too much, it's really just for looks because we already have so much yummy sugar on the top. Glaze always looks pretty. I love it on coffee cake, I love it on scones, so delicious. All right, and then I have a nice platter waiting. And so my guests are coming over. I always need a pretty platter. I'm just gonna line them up. I know my coworkers are waiting. You can't see them in the wings waiting, but they are. They just said, I'm so hungry. Did you cook anything today? Like they couldn't smell it. But let me just break one open so you can see how beautiful the inside is. It's a little bit like a muffin, but the crispiness of that exterior of a scone is just something that can't be beat. So I hope you'll try this recipe. It is just a nice time of year to eat blueberries, and I hope you'll enjoy this at home.